What up, Leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I'm the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome, and as always, I'm joined by the God of Night, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. And today we are in the Hall of Spoilers to talk a little bit about The Gifted, everybody. Fox 5 in New York City aired The Gifted. I gotta remember that it's New York City only, DeepBoyce. You know what I'm saying? It may be different somewhere else. I don't know.
It could be Fox 25, Fox 17. We don't know, but it's Fox 5 where we watch it. So
yeah, that's all that matters. New York City, baby.
And plus, that sounds better anyway. Fox 5.
Yeah, Fox 5 sounds dope, man. The Gifted is Fox and Marvel collabing to make an X-Men based TV show. And after watching the season premiere, me and DeepBoyce really liked the show, and we said to ourselves, "Yo, what mutants would we like to see on The Gifted?" So, this is a top 10 list of characters, X-Men mutant characters, that we would like to see in The Gifted. Now, I said X-Men mutant characters. I'm just referring to the X-Men character base. I don't necessarily mean X-Men, team members.
Yeah.
So, keep that in mind. DeepBoyce, let's get on right into the list, man.
Yes. Number 10 is a character by the name of Elixir, a.k.a. Joshua Foley. Some of you guys may know him out there as basically he's got golden skin color, but his main power is that he can heal people. He can heal almost anyone of almost anything, or conversely, he can hurt people with his healing powers. So he can kind of, undo what he's able to do with his healing powers. But technically, usually he does it because he's a good guy and he's somewhat of a pacifist. And in the comics, he's been shown as a bit OP, like extremely just powerful. He's able to heal himself from almost anything. I mean, they say he's Omega level mutant, but I mean, they throw that around like it's nothing nowadays. There's so many Omega level mutants out there, but you could always You could always nerf him, depower him, or rather, just kind of tone down his skill set on this show. I feel he would fit rather well, given that the characters are a part of this underground cell. So they have to make do with whatever they can. They don't have that much access to first aid. So, you might need a character out there that is a medic, so to speak. And, of course, he is not able to heal everyone of everything all the time because, it takes a bit of a toll. It takes a bit of a toll on the character.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about him, too, is that, in addition to healing, he can also, do things like make, boils appear on your skin or, generally make you unwell as well as healing. And the idea of him being a pacifist, I think, would work well in the show because, I mean, let's be honest, the Mutant Underground is being faced by these people that are chasing them down and are being aggressive. The Sentinel Services are they're not chilling, they're not laying on their backs, letting the mutants run away. And to integrate a character like Elixir, who is a pacifist, but is capable of, doing great harm, I think that would, really play to that moral dilemma. That moral dilemma that's really important to the X-Men characters and the X-Men franchise as a whole. So, Elixir at number 10, man. But moving on. Number 9. Number 9, we got Husk, a.k.a. Paige Guthrie. I hope I pronounced that right. Guthrie. So Paige Guthrie, a.k.a. Husk, basically can, remove layers of her skin. And when she does that, she can change the texture of her skin to things to other materials or components like stone or metal. And, it basically allows her to, shift her, the type of skin she has. And that could be pretty cool because, depending on the situation, I mean, could you imagine hey, they're shooting bullets at us. Yo, we need somebody to block out the bullets firing at us. Hey, let me peel off some of my skin. And shed some metal or some stone. And I think that could look really cool on a show like The Gifted. The Gifted is a grounded show. They're not gonna have a lot of money for huge CG effects. But I think the notion of somebody peeling their skin and under their skin being another substance or material, I think that could look really cool on The Gifted. So to me, I'm down for it. More than down for it.
Absolutely. I mean, she could kind of, she's able to do, I guess, a lot of different things. I mean, sort of present herself, not necessarily as a powerhouse, but just as a, with some very good defensive capabilities by just, using her powers. Needs to turn to steel. Bam, bam. Needs to turn into stone. Bam, bam. Needs to turn into whatever, adds some versatility to the storytelling and the writing. And she also happens to be the younger sister of Sam Guthrie, who is Cannonball, who I believe is going to be in the New Mutants movie. And you know, this show kind of throws some nods here and there to the X-Men, the Brotherhood of Mutants, and we don't know how far they're going to go with that. But if they're just going to throw a lot of Easter eggs, which if they've done in this first episode, you know, there was also a nice little Easter egg, a nice little shout out to the animated series theme as a ringtone. That was pretty dope.
That was dope.
You know, having one of these characters who, you know, I'm pretty sure they're going to have a lot more characters that are related to other X-Men characters as either Easter eggs and maybe deeper connections, you know, like Polaris, who's, you know, the daughter of Magneto. They're probably not going to bring out Magneto, but, you know, it's a nice little Easter egg.
I mean, those things are actually what a lot of these characters on this list are based on. Yeah. And speaking of which, our next character, number 8, is actually based on the notion of a connection to an X-Men character, and that is Spike, aka Evan Daniels. So Spike was actually a character originally created for the X-Men Evolution series, and Spike is the nephew of Storm. So I mean, if you watch X-Men Evolution back in the 2000s, I guess maybe late 90s, 2000s, you know, he would always refer to her as Auntie. And he has some cool powers because he can like extend or retract like bone spikes out of his body and kind of like project them out at people. And I mean, that's nasty and also pretty cool. So I mean, I feel like that could be a nice thing to see on TV as a mutant power that wouldn't break the Gifted's budget. Also, you know, with Evan, he doesn't have to be a young person, but you know, he's portrayed as a young kid in X-Men Evolution. He's portrayed as a teenager, and I think that the Gifted is aiming for that young age group for these mutants, because you know, really and truly, these mutants are inexperienced, and I think that contributes to part of the conflict. You know, Spike having that connection to Storm, you know, that we know, you know, is a wink wink nod to her character. It's just another way to further connect the movies to the TV show. I mean, we already know the Gifted is 100% in a separate timeline. I'm gonna call it a timeline. It's, you know, they're saying universe, but you know, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But you know, anything can happen, anything goes. But you know, Evan Daniels, you know, being from New York City, like he could very well not even have met his Aunt Aurora. So yeah, you know, I'm down for him to come through, and team up with these Mutant Underground members. Totally agree.
And it'll be again a nice Easter egg for some of the fans out there taking I guess a beloved character, or I guess a character that people like from X-Men Evolution. And I know some people probably out there in other lists or in their own minds probably thinking, oh, why not Marrow from the Morlocks? But I think she's had kind of her time to shine. She's been in a few things here and there. And, I mean, hey, if they're going to have two characters that have bone, splint, shint powers, whatever it is that this power is supposed to be, bone spikes, I guess is the proper term, I guess it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, and thing about Spike is we know we're probably never gonna see him like in a movie. Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. I could be completely wrong about that, but you know, it would be a cool thing to, you know, give a shout out to X-Men Evolution. You know, the history of you know, the X-Men franchise as a whole. Next up is actually another X-Men Evolution alum. He's actually in the comics though, and his name is Avalanche. All right, man, the dude can create earthquakes and emit, you know, seismic waves from his hands. And, you know, how could that not be sometime? I'm sure he's probably an Omega level mutant too that we were talking about. The man can cause earthquakes. Yeah. That's pretty dope, man. We've seen Quake over on Edges of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've seen her use, you know, those powers. Perfect for a TV budget. Take my man Avalanche. Put him on the scene in the Gifted, baby.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't see why not.
Totally agree. Echo all your sentiments. Character is not often used. Power set that's not often used. They could definitely, and you know, since he isn't a character that is in much, you know, you definitely have some room, some wiggle room in terms of storytelling, in terms of where you could take this character.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he also appeared in Wolverine and the X-Men. No, I mean, I will always sing the praises of that show, even though it was one season. He was in there pretty briefly, but you know, once again, another way to pay homage to the history of some of these characters, and in not just the X-Men movies, but the X-Men TV shows as well. He was also in the animated series as well, but he's most well known for being in X-Men Evolution. But DeepBoyce, who we got At number 6.
At number 6, we've got John Allerdyce. I'm going to call him John Allerdyce because it's a lot easier to pronounce. A.K.A. Pyro. You may have known him from X2, or the second X-Men movie from way back in the day. Some of you guys probably were just born, or maybe not even born. But
that's a great movie, man.
Yeah.
That's like one of the all-time great superhero movies. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
X2 was fantastic, man.
That was a big deal back then, and it was a solid film. It was a solid sequel to the first X-Men movie, and it brought in a lot of different mutants, some that we've seen, some that we haven't. I think Pyro is one of them that I think, definitely got his opportunity to shine in that movie. But again, I mean,
he definitely got his day for sure.
He definitely did, and typically he's Australian, so if they want to go with that, they could. That's not what they did in X-Men 2, but maybe they can take that route with the character. But his main power set is that he's able to manipulate fire. Now he doesn't create the fire,
right? He can't generate.
He can't generate, which I think is an interesting twist. If he either has to have a Zippo lighter like he did in the X-Men movie, or maybe you can outfit him like he is in the comics with some sort of flamethrower, that like backpack or something like that. But I think it would be important because, again, the thing about the Gifted, or the characters in the Gifted, the good characters that is, the mutants, they have their backs on the wall. They're up against the government and a secretive agency. So I think having him not have the ability to generate fire, but having to find sources for fire could allow for some good storytelling in terms of the situations that he'll be in, and how useful he may be or sometimes may not be.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the idea of him not being useful, and by not being useful, it made me think of him being an antagonist. I mean, typically he's a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants, right? Typically he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
And who's to say that right now with the Gifted, it's very early on. We only know two sides. We know the Mutant Underground. We know the Sentinel Services, and I guess there's a third side, which is just regular old humans. But it'd be interesting to introduce a faction of mutants who maybe take the spirit of the Brotherhood to heart. Where even though the Brotherhood and X-Men are nowhere to be found, maybe they think, hey, it's our job to carry on the legacy of the Brotherhood. Maybe we need to fight back instead of running away, like the Mutant Underground has tried to do,
Yeah.
And having him maybe serve as an antagonist to the Mutant Underground would be a good way for his character to kind of get his due, based on his history. And that being said, same for someone like Avalanche, who we mentioned before. He's also got history with the Brotherhood of Mutants. Mm-hmm. Why not him as well? Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be some other characters that we got coming up that definitely are gonna be playing at least maybe both sides potentially. Which brings us to number 5, DeepBoyce.
Oh yeah,
DeepBoyce, hit him with number 5, baby.
Number 5.
He's definitely gonna be playing both sides, man.
Number 5 is a character known as Changeling, or better yet, Morph. He was in an episode of X-Men the Animated Series, a phenomenal cartoon, but he's also been in the comics. Now his real name is unknown. So, but the main thing about Morph is you don't have to worry about having the Mystique character, but instead you can end up having yet another character that is able to change his appearance. And what was interesting about this character when we were kind of coming up with this list is we were thinking about, what this character could mean for the storyline, what this character could mean for the good guys, for the bad guys, for whatever other team may or may not be in there. It's super interesting having a character that can change his look and be almost anyone. Because who knows if he's already on the show? Who knows if he's pretending to be a good guy? Who knows if he's pretending to be a bad guy? Who knows if he's a double agent of sorts? He's pretending to be a good guy, but is actually a bad guy, or vice versa. Adds a ton of elements and layers to the storytelling.
Shape-shifting is always fun. Shape-shifting and the notion that you could be telling someone your deepest, darkest secrets, and then you find out via twist that person is actually working for the enemy. I mean, I could see Morph working for the Sentinel Services. I could see Morph maybe working with the Mutant Underground at first, and then maybe switching sides. I mean, especially in X-Men the Animated Series, because I mean, he appeared in a couple episodes of X-Men the animated series, and that's where I know him best from. And he kind of became like super psychotic because he got left behind on one of the missions, and that broke him.
Yeah.
And essentially he essentially had two personalities where one side of him loved his teammates, loved the people that he considered comrades, but the other side will do anything to destroy them. And I thought that was like an interesting way to go with Moore's characterization, because I mean, the idea that someone has the idea that someone can shapeshift and also has dual personalities is just like layers of nuance there that Morph could potentially bring to the Gifted. And the idea that he could be playing both sides, or maybe even the notion that he doesn't even know what the other hand is doing. Maybe those personalities manifest in a way where one side of him is working with the enemy, the other side thinks he's loyal.
Yeah.
I think Morph, blurring the lines with him being able to change his form is really cool. And I honestly, I liked him in the X-Men animated series. He scared the shit out of me as a kid, but I really did like him, and would love to see him on the Gifted. Love to see him on the Gifted.
Agreed.
But speaking of body changing, speaking of doing things to your body as a mutant, next up, number 4, we've got Multiple Man, a.k.a. Jamie Madrox, man. So he actually appeared in X-Men The Last Stand. He was a character who could essentially have multiple versions of himself. Now, I get it, it's TV budget. You don't want him doing 100 versions of himself or anything like that. I'm not even sure he can even do that in the comics. I think he does have a limit. Mm-hmm. But you could also, have him in a place where he hasn't fully developed his powers. A bunch of these mutants on the Gifted haven't fully developed their powers. I mean, Andy Strucker, his sister. I mean, his sister seems to be more developed, but even she showed some signs of not fully being able to control her powers the way she wanted to. Having Jamie Madrox appear on the show as someone who could, create multiple versions of himself. Maybe he has a limit on that. Maybe he can only create 3 versions of himself. Whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy, to me, is either way, I feel like he could be useful. I mean, he has a history of, working with the bad guys, generally speaking. So, but he has been on, X Factor. He has been on S.H.I.E.L.D. various times. So, to have him be able to be in more than one place at one time, that could be super fun and super useful, especially in a heist situation. I mean, right now, Polaris, Lorna Dane, she's in prison. I mean, what if there's a situation where you need somebody like Multiple Man to break her out?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see how he couldn't be useful. And I think that having him even interact with his multiple versions could be funny too. Bring some levity to the Gifted as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As long as they don't go full on Matrix, was it Revolutions, where the million Agent Smiths that all look terrible with the CGI. But
no.
But one cool thing, or I mean, this might be a little tough to pull off with Jamie Madrox, but when it's done well, particularly with what I've seen in the comics, it's pretty interesting. That's the fact that to truly kill him, you have to kill the original. So you could have several instances where you're just like, is he dead? All of these copies are dead. But where's the real
That's cool.
Jamie Madrox? Jamie Madrox is out there somewhere.
Yeah. That's cool.
Fake outs from time to time.
Yeah, that could serve the narrative well. I like that. I like that idea. I like that. That'd be pretty cool. That sounds cool. Right. All right, number three. All right, now we're getting into fan favorites. I feel like these are people that you guys might know. Number 3. DeepBoyce, who we got?
Number 3 is Omega Red, one of Wolverine's deadliest foes.
Yes.
One who hasn't, in my opinion, been used enough.
No, I mean, not at all.
Not
really.
Yeah, you haven't. In the last 10, 15 years, I haven't really seen much of him. I think in the 90s, we saw a good dosage of Omega Red, and he was pretty dope.
Yeah.
But he is primed for some sort of return, whether in a show or a movie. And particularly, we're thinking of The Gifted here. Again, with all these storylines involving secret government agencies possibly using mutants to hunt other mutants. I mean, given this character's backstory, he almost is a perfect fit. I mean, Omega Red his name is Arkady Rossovich. He was experimented under Soviet control as their attempt to mimic the Weapon X program, even their attempt to mimic
one of 100 billion times that Marvel Comics tried to mimic the Weapon X program,
which in turn was, I think, an effort to mimic the Super Soldier Serum. I think.
Yes, indeed.
So
I think the X stood for 10. Actually.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely, yeah.
Cap, man, there's only one like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice commentary on the creation of atomic weaponry right there.
Indeed. But anyway, didn't even think of that.
Yeah, not to get too off topic.
The boy's getting deep up in there.
Omega Red, government assassin, experimented on. I think he definitely is a sadistic killer. I don't know much about his background, but there's still, given the fact you haven't seen him a lot, I think he's a great property, and you could definitely make him work in terms of a TV budget. You don't have to get too crazy. And he's got the metal tendrils that he uses to great effect, and he also has sort of like vampiric powers. He can kind of drain the life force out of people.
Sure.
So there's definitely a lot that can be done, and you always, it doesn't hurt to have like a real threat of a bad guy out there. And please don't kill him off if you do put him on the show. Keep him around for as long as you possibly can.
I wouldn't say that, because sometimes people overstay their welcome. I'm looking at you, Malcolm Merlyn, over on Arrow. Yes, I love John Barrowman, man, and Malcolm Merlyn is cool sometimes, but man, that dude overstayed his welcome hard. Yeah. So if you ain't doing nothing useful, just kill him. Just kill him in a good way. But I mean, Omega Red, man, he was a serial killer in Russia. That's pretty much all that's really known about his past. He got captured by Interpol, and they handed him over to the KGB, thus began experiments, such like that. I mean, just the idea of, whoever the adversary is, whether it be Sentinel Service or even a foreign branch. What if, like, Russia has their own branch of, mutant hunters? Or what if, Sentinel Services teams up with an international organization and recruits from Omega Red? Or maybe Omega Reds are just American. I mean, I wouldn't want them to do that, but maybe they switch it up like that. But I think Omega Red has... Russian-American, there you go. A nice compromise. So, Omega Red, you might be looking at Omega Red and thinking to yourself, how are they going to make that in live action? He looks stupid. Because he does look pretty dumb. He looks pretty crazy. Yeah. But, I mean, like, at the end of the day, there are designs of Omega Red where, like, he doesn't have to have his tentacles out all the time. To be honest with you, it'd probably look a little funny. But, maybe his tentacles can extend out of his body. I mean, he definitely can do that. Like, the tentacles can retract into his body and come back out. So who's to say that can be, adapted in however he's presented. But, I think that he's a character that's generally underused. I don't think he's really had an appearance in live action yet. Really underused and very sadistic. And it could bring, some darkness to the show. I think that could work, man. Yeah. But anyway, next up, number two. Number two, we've got Agent Zero, a.k.a. Maverick, man. So this is a guy who can absorb kinetic energy, and, essentially that, makes him almost, not invulnerable, but it makes him able to take a lot of hits, take a lot of damage. Like, he can survive, like, falls and stuff like that. He can take energy blasts. He can be hit by people and, essentially still be able to absorb it. Not only that, he's, like, a pretty crazy assassin. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude could, straight up murk you. He's not playing games. Yeah. And, another character who's associated with the Weapon X program, which actually gave him, like, a healing factor as well. So even if he does get hurt, a slight healing factor, he's healing himself up nonetheless. But I mean, Agent Zero, I could 100% see this guy as a merc that's recruited by Sentinel Services or whatever adversary is hunting down the protagonist, and him being a stone cold killer. A professional killer. Yeah. And, for me, I'm just kind of like, cool character. He has a cool look to him, with the hood kind of pulled over, his face generally covered with the goggles over his face. I think that's easy for live action, And he's also got a ton of weaponry. It'll be nice for them to maybe flex their muscles with some advanced tech. We saw the Sentinel Services use some spider sentinels, which I liked a lot. So, who's to say, they couldn't equip your boy Maverick with some stuff like that, too. I personally like the name Agent Zero better, but hey, who am I to judge?
I mean, it could be a code name, or they could just kind of mention that his name, he used to run under the name Maverick someplace else. I mean, as long as the character is there, true to form as a deadly mercenary that has some slight mutant powers, would definitely add a lot to the show and be pretty cool thing to see. And honestly, in my opinion, out of all the ones that we've named, I mean, this is number 2, but out of all the ones that we've named, I wouldn't be surprised if this character makes his way on the show.
Yeah, because he's pretty easy to do. You know what I mean? Like, there ain't really any other, way to... there's nothing really hard about him, that I can't really think of anything in the way. I mean, he was an X-Men Origins Wolverine. Oh, my gosh. I just got a stomachache. I just got nauseous just saying that name. I just got lightheaded saying the name of that movie. X-Men Origins Whack-ass Wolverine, people. That movie was a hot, stinking pile of garbage, bro. Man, I put better things in the toilet than that movie. But but yeah, I can totally see Agent Zero, and I think he would be a nice addition to the team, man. But we're gonna move on to number 1, DeepBoyce. Another person that's affiliated with someone else who had some time spent with the Weapon X program. DeepBoyce, hit it with number 1, man.
Number 1 is the Son of Wolverine, Daken.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, it never hurts to have Wolverine in pretty much anything that you make. Movie, TV show.
But you can't have Wolverine because they're not going to put Wolverine.
You can't have Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's done. They did Logan. And the character will probably come back in a Fox movie. I mean, here we're crossing our fingers and hoping that Wolverine will come back in a Marvel MCU movie. But, hey, probably not going to happen. Regardless.
Probably not, but hey.
Not
anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
If anything.
And also, X-23, I guess the daughter clone of Wolverine, was already in Logan, and there's a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if they also use her to be the next Wolverine and they put her in the movies. But luckily, Wolverine, he's been getting around over the 100.
The man's been alive for mad long.
He
can have 80 kids out there, bro.
He's been around for more than a century. And he happens to have an illegitimate child who is mostly bad, sometimes good, sometimes part of the Dark Avengers, sometimes trying to kill his father, sometimes trying to do some actual good with X-23 out there, and that's Daken. I mean, there's a lot that you can really work with here, and you don't really have to tie him too much to his backstory, to the character of Wolverine. You could maybe have a nod, as they've already kind of mentioned the X-Men, as, maybe mentioning Wolverine from the simple fact that, hey, he's got healing powers and he's got claws. Say, hey, you look familiar. We've seen you before. But they don't really have to tie him too much into what his father's been doing, because I'm sure they want to kind of keep those things separate to let the movies do their thing and the Gifted do its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, they could just very well do the same thing they're doing with Polaris, which is, Matt Nix, the showrunner for The Gifted, has confirmed that Polaris is the daughter of Magneto. Whether or not that's fully explored in The Gifted, we don't know. Obviously, she's used magnetic powers. Even the way she uses her powers, you see that, she kind of imitates some of the motions that Magneto has used. But I think with Daken, you could pretty much do the same thing or something similar. And you can have his powers. You can have the claws. The look of Daken is what's most important in that respect. And us knowing that he is a nod to Wolverine. And like you said, Wolverine's been around. He didn't even know, in the comics, he didn't even know about Daken until he was already grown. Yeah. So, it doesn't have to be a situation where Daken walks on the Gift and he's like, hey guys, my dad's name is Logan. I think that they could very well, they could go ahead and not even acknowledge it, or even, kind of allude to it or something, have it be, a situation where his dad was, I don't know, he ran off because he had, some water fight. I don't know. They could just allude to Logan in some way or fashion that makes us know, wink, wink, nod, nod, this is his son. I think the most interesting thing about Daken is that dude only serves his needs and his needs only, and I like that. Because I like a character who, you know, is really sort of an anti-hero. He could just really play both sides. He can manipulate, you know, Sentinel Services or whoever the antagonist may be to suit his needs. He could manipulate the Mutant Underground to get what he wants. I like the... Excuse me, I almost choked. I like the fact that you know, he can run solo. I like the fact that, you know, he is willing to do whatever he wants, whatever he needs to do to get what he wants and to look out for himself. I mean, generally the guy has, you know, many affiliations with, you know, the more naughty side of the Marvel universe. He's usually up to no good. And I think that having a character like him who maybe has redeemable qualities but doesn't know it yet, yeah. I think that's a cool way to show his growth. And maybe even he could even teach a thing about survival to the Mutant Underground, because, you know, with his power set, which is pretty much similar to Wolverine's, more or less, you know, minus the adamantium. You know, I feel like he could, you know, bring that to the team, or at least show them through whatever his interactions with them may be, to the Mutant Underground team or squad.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that's our top 10 list of characters, X-Men characters that we want to see on The Gifted. Let us know what you think of our list. Let us know if you agree with the people on our list. Let us know if there's anyone you would have replaced, or anyone you want to see, anyone you would have taken off our list and you know, put onto it. But that being said, y'all, support the Spectacular Spoiler League by hitting that subscribe button and joining up with the league. Please turn on notifications so you can be up to date with the latest and greatest with the Spectacular Spoiler League. And by all means, hit us with a like so we can get this video out there and spread some love by having some recruits to the league, man. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.